Okay, so there's this island, and the people on the island have some really interesting linguistic stuff going on. Just like in some of the islands in New Guinea, there's a lot of languages, and there's some really interesting features. One is that while they do have the words for left and right, they rely much more on cardinal directions like east west, north south. And it's actually modified from true cardinal directions to conform more to the geographical terrain of the island they live on. So instead of saying something like, meet me by the tree that's to the left of that one, they'll say something that roughly translates to, meet me by the tree that's closer to the west side of the island. They also have this like drink that's central to their culture. It's like a special potion made from ground plants that are not indigenous to the island. They actually go to great lengths to bring them to the island, and they have specially trained and ordained masters prepare this elixir. They use special tools to do it, and generally do so in a special kind of dwelling dedicated specifically to imbibing this potion, which is said to have mind-altering effects and provide mental clarity and physical strength above what's natural. Because this drink is so important in their culture, they actually have hundreds of names for it, depending on minor variations that are completely opaque to outsiders. The names for it range from fanciful descriptions that translate to things like stained or hooded, or even common names that they give to people as well. I'm, of course, talking about the tribe known as New Yorkers, who navigate based on whether something is uptown or downtown, west or east, and who drink macchiatos, cappuccinos, or just a cup of joe. Does this sound like a completely ridiculous way to talk about New York? It should. Is this how a lot of linguists and linguistic anthropologists treat other people in other parts of the world? You bet. So that's what we're talking about today. Why is it that when I tell people at a party that I'm a linguist, they immediately want to ask me if it's true that Eskimo, their word, not mine, have 100 words for snow? Or if it's true that the ancient Greeks couldn't see the color blue? Where does this stuff come from, and why does it catch on? Stick around, and we'll talk about the Great Snow Hoax, Homer's apparent colorblindness, and the inadvertent harm caused by the debunked Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. I'm Dr. Taylor Jones, and this is Language Jones. Today's video is sponsored by italki. If you're looking to learn a new language or improve your skills, italki is the perfect platform for you. With italki, you can connect with thousands of professional teachers and community tutors from around the world. Whether you want to learn conversational French, master Japanese, or dive into any other language, italki offers personalized lessons tailored to your needs and goals. What's really cool is the flexibility it offers. You can choose your tutor based on their expertise, teaching style, and availability, ensuring you find someone who matches your learning preferences. Plus, you can schedule lessons at times that work best for you, making it easy to fit language learning into your busy life. And italki isn't just about formal lessons. You can also practice with language partners from around the globe, engage in community discussions, and access a treasure trove of resources to support your learning journey. So if you're ready to unlock new opportunities and experiences through language, head over to italki.com today and get started with your first lesson. Buy $10, get $5 for free for your first lesson using my code Jones24. Now back to the video. Be honest, have you heard that the Eskimo have 100 words for snow? Feels truthy, right? Like, it makes sense because all we really know about them is like igloos and snow and fur clothes. Heck, most of us don't even know that they don't like to be called Eskimo and their name for themselves is Inuit. The snow thing, it turns out, is a hoax. Jeffrey Pullum refers to it as the Great Eskimo Vocabulary Hoax. This idea is that because of their environment, they have a ton of distinct terms to describe the different types of snow, ostensibly indicating a deep cultural connection to their surroundings. There's a lot of social work that this is doing, but without getting too far ahead of myself, it's related to noble savage tropes about Native Americans being deeply attuned to the land, whatever land they happened to occupy starting around the 1860s, but that's a topic for a different day that the rest is history recently covered better than I could. So before I go on, leave me a comment with how many words you think they actually have for snow. So, here's how it happened. This idea gained traction in the 19th and 20th centuries and was often cited to illustrate how language shapes perception and culture. Linguists and anthropologists initially propagated the idea, suggesting that the Inuit language, Inuktitut, and related dialects had dozens or even hundreds of words for snow. But in reality, while the Inuit languages do have multiple terms for snow, like kanik for falling snow and aput for snow on the ground, I'm probably not saying those right. The number is not nearly as large as the myth suggests. Inuit languages are polysynthetic, meaning they can create new words by combining roots and affixes, which allows speakers to describe different types of snow using fewer distinct root words. You know, like English. We just do it with multiple words instead of prefixes and suffixes on a main word. And honestly, this just gets back to the linguistic arguments over what constitutes a word, which is really a question about prosody and stress and a few other elements. If you're new to the channel, no, linguists do not all agree on what constitutes a word. And the same grammatical and prosodic entity might be classified as a single word in, say, Zulu and a whole sentence in French, despite being, morpheme for morpheme, the same ideas in the same order with the same stress pattern. This myth then oversimplifies and misrepresents the complexity of language and culture. It sort of primitivizes the Inuit, making them appear overly obsessed with nitpicky details that more civilized people can recognize are all basically the same thing. This myth and myths like it are often used to suggest that a particular group or people is culturally and linguistically incapable of the kind of technology or even scientific and mathematical thinking of usually Western Europeans. This line of thinking relates to the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which is the largely debunked claim that language shapes your thoughts and what thoughts are even possible for you. Yes, there is such a thing as priming, and yes, there are cultural and social biases. The weak form of Sapir-Whorf seems to have some evidence in its favor, but that mostly boils down to things like Russian speakers are a fraction of a second faster at identifying different shades of blue, for which Russian has 2 words, than speakers of languages that don't have 2 words for those 2 shades. This is not particularly interesting. But of course, the strong form of the hypothesis was well before eye tracking and brain scanning studies and made much, much stronger claims. So in the 1920s, you have people like Benjamin Lee Whorf claiming that because the Hopi had a different system for thinking about tense and aspect, they were somehow incapable of experiencing time the same way that we do. The most absurd versions of this are laughable in their ignorance and often deeply ironic. I've heard multiple different versions of something along the lines of speakers of X language can't conceive of time in the same way as English speakers because their idea of time is backwards compared to ours. So things that happened in the past, they think of as existing in front of them, not behind them. Whenever this comes up, which is surprisingly frequently, the aspiring NPR Radiolab host is always annoyed and chagrined when I point out that they're literally describing the English word before. It means in front of. This stuff is almost always used as a proxy for racial and ethnic prejudices. So it's not that these people are inherently bad or wrong, it's just that their language and culture is holding them back. When I TA'd for Languages of Africa at UPenn, I had multiple students tell me they thought European languages, like English, were superior to African languages because they were better suited to things like math. So I showed a video from Khan Academy in which they explained Riemann sums and later integration, calculus, in Zulu. One student told me it didn't count because they had borrowed the word rectangle. I told them, boy, I've got bad news for you about English then. You think that's English you're speaking?
You think that's air you're breathing now?
Sorry, you think calculus is English? That's Latin. You think algebra is English? That's literally an Afro-Asiatic language. And I haven't even gotten to Homer and blue yet. It's true there isn't a specific word for blue in the ancient Greek used in Homer, but to say that the Greeks could not see the color blue, the one that appears both in the sky and the Mediterranean, is unhinged. That's like saying English speakers couldn't see the color orange until after 1500. After all, Chaucer just calls it fox red, and our word for it is just a mispronounced Persian name for a fruit from China that's that color. More often than not, this stuff is just people wanting to know a fun fact that turns our assumed knowledge on its head. It's the Radiolab Freakonomics worldview. Oh my god, did you know tidy factoid that neatly explains something unexpected by challenging the conventional wisdom? Of course, here, the conventional wisdom is what's called the uniformitarian principle in linguistics. That is, that people in the past were fundamentally like us. So language change is not because of Darwinian evolution in terms of human abilities, but rather social evolution in learned systems. The result is always that those people, Native Americans, Bantu people, the Greeks, are not like us. They not like us. It's the Kendrickification of linguistics. They can't understand time or do math or see the world in all the colors we see. The Kendrick reference is about colors, not about Drake being rumored to have anything in common with ancient Greeks, by the way, in case that wasn't clear. So yeah, another bummer video from me, but don't worry, there's fun stuff on the way. Next week, I'm going to explain the bane of every Spanish student's existence, the subjunctive. It will be the only video you ever need to completely understand the subjunctive in Spanish, French, etc., etc., etc. The textbooks and the teachers that say it's about doubt are not even remotely telling half the story, which is why it's so confusing. So leave me a comment if you're interested in that and with what most confuses you about it, and I'll try to cover that in the video too. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, of course, and leave a comment for the algorithm. That word's also basically from like Arabic, from a name, al-Khwarizmi. Anyway, let me know what other colors the Greeks didn't see since Homer never mentioned them. Could they see mauve, fuchsia, periwinkle? Could you imagine a translation of Homer like that, by the way? Actually, ChatGPT and 11 Labs thinks it might sound something like this. Sing, O muse of the hero, clad in fuchsia's fire, who strode forth boldly, heart fierce with desire, under skies where the periwinkle whispers weep, and the sun cast down its corn silk light, soft and deep. Enough of that nonsense. If you would like to support the channel, you can do so right here with super thanks and super chat on my live streams, or you can go to patreon.com/languagejones. Special thanks to all of my patrons. And until next time, happy learning.